Holy smokes! The Venom has latched onto a swift steed. And presto, a Venom horse has materialized. It snatches up Eddie and plops him on its back. Then it springs up sky high, rocketing over 656 feet with Eddie in tow. The Venom's long tongue is trailing behind. And Eddie? He's scared half to death. Right on the heels of that, it takes another bounding leap. Eddie goes flying skyward. Luckily, Venom whips out 2 tentacles in a flash, yanking Eddie back onto the horse's saddle. Eddie's heart is about to burst out of his chest. He's nearly wet his britches. Yup, in this episode, we're gonna dig into Venom 3. Venom is a sentient alien symbiote. It's got a quirk that it can only survive long-term by latching onto a human. Well, on its very first day on Earth, it set its sights on Spider-Man and attached itself to him pronto. At this point, Peter Parker was seething with rage because his uncle got whacked by the Sandman. Venom gets tougher when up against a tougher foe, and it also amps up the human's personality traits. We can see it cocooning Peter within its own body like a web of silk. Venom has taken over Spider-Man. Spider-Man's original getup morphs into a symbiote suit in a snap. This is a game changer. Peter's inner hatred is magnified to the max. He pounds the Sandman into oblivion. With a mighty heave of his mitts, he rips open the underground water main. The gushing floodwaters come barreling out and wash the Sandman into a pile of mush. However, this collaboration makes Peter taste the allure of being a baddie. He gets more and more hot-headed. Just when the evil Inklings are about to swallow him whole, Peter dashes into a clock tower. Then he musters all his might and clangs the big iron bell. Under the magical effect of the bell's toll, Peter finally manages to peel the Venom off his body. Why? Turns out the Venom has a phobia of high-frequency sound waves. Once the Venom ditches its host, it's gotta scram and find a new one lickety-split. So it gloms onto Eddie, a journalist who makes a living out of exposing social scandals. How much of a powerhouse is a person once the Venom gets cozy with them? Eddie's got the brawn of a bona fide strongman. He can smash a 3-foot-thick tree like it's a twig. His appetite's so voracious he could gulp down a whole cow. But he can't stomach normal human grub. He's only got a hankering for raw and bloody victuals. When danger rears its ugly head, his whole arm can transform into a rock-solid shield. Bullets bouncing off him are like a mild itch. Heck, he can even nab a car zipping along at 200 miles per hour and hold it in a death grip. With a deafening boom, 2 black cars get pulverized by his might. Eddie's so spooked. But before he can catch his breath, another black car comes barreling out and smashes Eddie into a million pieces. But in the blink of an eye, the Venom miraculously mends his broken bones and busted up body parts. Eddie transmutes into the Venom form in a flash. All of a sudden, someone clocks him on the noggin. Venom's fuse is lit. It spins around and chomps down. Then it whisks Eddie away from the scene, growling, "I'll have your back from now on. But you better rustle up some brains for me to nosh on." Venom sure didn't see that coming. Eddie, who's got the almighty Venom tagging along, turns out to be a total scaredy cat. The second he spots some baddies packing heat, he's so spooked that he throws his hands up in surrender pronto.
What are you doing?
Venom barks at him to lower his mitts.
You are making us look bad.
Thanks to Eddie's chicken-hearted ways, Venom doesn't seem as tough as he usually is. Before you know it, they've caught the attention of Riot, one of Venom's kin. This Riot is a real meanie. Eddie gets skewered through the chest by Riot's massive sword in a heartbeat. Just when things look bleakest, Venom brings Eddie back from the brink and manages to put Riot in his place. After this wild ride, the two of them become tight as ticks. But Venom's always strutting around. One slip up and a chunk of his body gets chomped off by the murderer Cassidy. Well, that bit morphs into another of Venom's kind called Carnage. The moment Venom lays eyes on Carnage, he goes all wobbly.
Oh, shit. We should leave.
Since Cassidy's a stone-cold killer, Carnage is one tough customer too, but Venom stumbles onto a little secret. Turns out the murderer and Carnage are always at loggerheads, so Venom and Eddie cook up a nifty plan. They grab a steel pipe and plunge it through Carnage's noggin, but this little stunt causes a major ruckus. Cassidy buys the farm, and Eddie becomes public enemy number 1. With no way out, the two of them have to hit the road and lay low. The one thing Venom wants more than anything is to check out the Statue of Liberty. So, Venom scoops up Eddie and hops aboard a plane, kicking off their swanky travel adventure. Along the way, Eddie's face is nearly frozen solid by the icy wind. He's so cheesed off that he gives Venom an earful. Venom's no dummy though. He whips out his original form in a flash to warm Eddie up. But just then, all hell breaks loose. The plane gets walloped by a monster. Venom clambers up for a peek. This critter looks like a ginormous cockroach with 3 whip-like tails trailing behind. Venom's eagle eyes spot it as a Xenophage right away. These things are no joke. They can chow down on every living thing in sight. The Xenophage opens its gaping maw, flashing its fangs and lunges. Venom dodges with a slick slide. The Xenophage takes another swipe, but this time, its tail gets snarled up in the engine, goes up in smoke. Venom's not in much better shape himself. He loses his footing and takes a tumble too. Lucky for him, at the 11th hour, he morphs into a parachute and crash lands with Eddie in a desert. Who'd have thought that the Xenophage has an out-of-this-world regenerative ability? It reconnects its bones and veins and springs back to its spooky self. Venom can't wrap his head around why the Xenophage showed up out of the blue and is hot on their heels. But this ain't the time to play detective. The name of the game right now is to hightail it out of this godforsaken place. Ever seen Venom hitch a ride with an animal? Well, right in their path appears a speedy steed. Venom latches onto it in a jiffy. Holy moly! A Venom horse springs into action. It snatches Eddie and plops him on its back. Then it springs sky high. With this one bound, it clears over 656 feet. Venom's tongue is flapping around like a flag. Eddie is hollering his lungs out, scared witless. Just like that, it takes another flying leap. Eddie goes airborne. Venom shoots out 2 tentacles in a flash and reels Eddie back onto the saddle. It tears through the valleys like a bat out of hell, even pulling off some sick drifts. Finally, when Venom pauses to take a sip of water, a bunch of mysterious goons pop up and open fire on Eddie. Venom's quick on the draw too. With a flick of its hindquarters, it tosses Eddie into the river and dives in after him. The mysterious crew sends someone to dive in and latch onto Eddie from behind. Eddie gives a mighty tug and yanks off the other guy's oxygen tank. But just as he breaks free, he's nabbed again. The enemy whips out a pistol and aims it at Eddie's chest. Eddie's so terrified that he clamps down on the enemy's hand. In the chaos, the gun goes off by accident. Eddie, in a moment of panic, winds up offing another human. Before he can catch his breath, the enemy behind him grabs him again. Meanwhile, the extremely ferocious Venom is actually caught in a fishing net. It manages to wiggle out through the gaps and quickly latches onto a fish, turning into the wild Venom fish. Then it leaps out of the water and onto a frog, becoming Venom Frog. At this moment, Eddie spots a cliff waterfall and is just about to plunge. Fortunately, Venom swiftly attaches to him and reveals its original form, crashing into the waterfall with a loud splash. The enemies notice the opportunity and start pounding Venom with an electric baton. Just then, the Xenophage seems to have some sort of telepathic connection and zooms into the water. Venom seizes the moment and makes a quick getaway. The bullets keep hitting the Xenophage, making it go crazy. In a rage, it swallows everyone around. After Eddie manages to escape, he meets a traveling family of 4. Eddie hitchhikes with them and arrives in a city. But when he gets there, he realizes it's Paris, not the New York he was expecting. He can't even see the Statue of Liberty. Venom is furious. However, looking at the surrounding scenery, Venom suddenly remembers a scene from the movie Rain Man, where the younger brother takes the older brother to gamble. So it nags Eddie to take it gambling too. Venom wants to enter the casino to gamble, but Eddie is dressed shabbily. The casino security guards take one look at him and block his entry. Venom has a short temper and knocks the guard unconscious. Eddie complains, "You're way too rough. If we're found out, we're in big trouble." At this point, Eddie notices a man in a suit taking a leak. He walks over. The drunk man turns around and forgets to zip up. Eddie has the bad luck to get his foot wet. Venom sees this and raises its black palm, slapping the man and sending him flying. Then Eddie puts on the man's suit and strolls into the casino casually. After playing in the casino for a while, he runs into Mrs. Chen, the convenience store owner. It's really a case of when fellow countrymen meet. They feel close. Venom is overjoyed and shows its full form, starting to dance the shosha with Mrs. Chen. But who could have guessed? This kind of creature is extremely powerful and can devour everything in the universe. The Xenophage suddenly barges in. Nobody knows how it locates its target, but it always manages to find Venom precisely. Venom notices this and hides back in Eddie's body. The Xenophage wanders around aimlessly for a while and then seems to give up the attack and leaves. But the story isn't over. The mysterious troops follow the trail of the Xenophage and descend from the sky. They fire ultrasonic waves, separating Venom and Eddie instantly. Then they take them back to Area 51 Research Institute, which specializes in symbiotes. After Eddie wakes up, he discovers a shocking secret from a green Venom. All symbiotes are on the verge of being destroyed, and the one who initiates this destruction is Null, the ancestor of symbiotes. Have you ever seen such a variety of Venoms? There's the huge and strong brute type, the really strange double-headed type, and the beautiful one that attracts a lot of attention. But their creator Null wants to destroy them all. It turns out that Null is an evil being in the universe. His purpose is to wipe out everything in the cosmos. So Null creates symbiotes and can use a mental link to make them attack. But suddenly, he is defeated by Thor in the Marvel universe. This defeat makes Null unable to have a mental connection with symbiotes anymore. The symbiotes are like runaway horses that have broken free and start attaching to humans. To avoid being Null's puppets again, the symbiotes work together and lock Null up. And the only way for them to escape is to find a key called Codex. By a strange coincidence, this Codex is inside Venom and Eddie, but it's not easy to get. Only a host and symbiote that have been through life and death challenges can unlock the power of the Codex. So, Null sends the Xenophage to steal it. As long as Venom shows its true form on Eddie, the Xenophage can track it accurately. Venom is on the verge of kicking the bucket. Area 51 has been dead set on getting rid of Eddie and Venom all this time because they're hell-bent on keeping the peace across the entire universe. The Major in charge over Area 51 realizes that Eddie has caught on to the truth, so he whips out his pistol and plugs Eddie right then and there. But in the blink of an eye, Dr. Piane, standing nearby, transforms into Venom and latches onto Eddie Lickety-Split. Right after that, the Xenophage homes in on the Codex. With a thunderous crash, it smashes through the ceiling and starts a wild rampage. Venom shouts, "Beat it!" The Major and his gang hightail it out of there. Venom is all geared up to have a go at it when the green Venom pops up out of thin air and tells him to scram. But the next second, the green Venom gets swallowed whole by the Xenophage. Venom is pinned down real tight too. At this make or break moment, Venom hollers. Hearing that, Dr. Piane hits the release button pronto. A dozen or so symbiotes start latching onto humans. The joint turns into a total circus of chaos in a heartbeat. The Xenophage gets distracted by all the ruckus and starts gobbling up whoever's in its path. By this time, the symbiotes have managed to hitch a ride successfully. They all have one and only one aim in their crosshairs, and that's to escort Venom and Eddie to safety. Check out the epic smackdown between Venom and the Xenophage. Venom uses a whole mess of tentacles to hogtie the Xenophage. Eddie makes a run for it outside with the symbiotes running interference. Out of nowhere, he runs into the family of 4 who are on vacation. They're so freaked out by the spine-chilling scene that they huddle together like a bunch of scaredy cats. Meanwhile, seeing that its target has slipped through its fingers, the Xenophage is fuming mad. It busts free from the symbiote's grip and chases after them outside. One symbiote cracks a fire whip, but it gets gobbled up by the Xenophage in a heartbeat. The other symbiotes aren't about to take this lying down. They jump into the fray. Eddie seizes the chance and bolts like a bat out of hell. He's got it in his noggin to save the family of 4. The Major is in the dark about the whole situation and starts spraying lead in a circle at the Xenophage. Then he grabs a rocket launcher and takes aim at the Xenophage. With a huge kaboom, a fireball lights up the sky. But this screws things up royally. The tower where the family of 4 is perched starts to topple. Lucky for them, Venom and the symbiotes are quick on their feet and save them just in the nick of time. But this ain't the end of the line. This critter is seriously spooky. It's got an immortal body, for Pete's sake. At this point, the Xenophage reconnects its body parts and gets back to its original form. It's so pissed off that its head is vibrating like a jackhammer, giving out high-frequency ultrasonic waves. All the symbiotes, including Venom, are forced to split from their hosts. Eddie is in a flap and shoves Venom back into his body. But before he can even catch his breath, another Xenophage gets teleported over. Eddie shields the family of 4 and ducks under the car. Looking at the 2 Xenophages staying untouched in the hail of bullets, he knows the only way out now is to go all guns blazing. So he gives the Major a significant look. This is Venom's most badass transformation yet. Venom morphs into its original form, hops onto a motorcycle, and draws the Xenophage's attention front and center. It stretches its tentacles tentacles and spreads them like wings. Then it vanishes back into Eddie's body. The Xenophage suddenly loses its target and has to slam on the brakes, but it has no clue that it's already waltzed into the danger zone. The Major spots the opportunity and gives the order to attack the explosive area pronto. With a huge bang, the fire flares up again, but the Xenophage springs back to life in a split second, zooms out of the smoke, and demolishes the helicopter. One team member gets his leg chomped on by it. The Major quickly unloads his gun on the Xenophage and manages to save the team member. But before he can backpedal, the sharp tentacles stab through his chest in a flash. Dr. Pian, who's possessed, notices the propeller at this moment and gives Eddie a knowing wink. Eddie and Venom get the message loud and clear. One drives and the other attacks. They swoop down from the sky and use the propeller to chop off the Xenophage's head. Dr. Pian ain't slacking either. She severs the Xenophage's tentacles and rescues the Major and the team member. Venom and Eddie are on the verge of kicking the bucket. Eddie's got a nasty gash in his abdomen. Just as the Xenophage is about to chow down on Eddie, the Dad Martin steps up bravely and blows its mouth to smithereens. Dr. Pian's in a real pickle too. After getting zapped by those ultrasonic waves, the symbiote's forced to split from her and gets gobbled up by the Xenophage in a heartbeat. Right about now, another batch of Xenophages gets beamed in. Humans are backed into a corner with no way to fight back. Venom and Eddie are holed up in a helicopter. Gazing at these freaky Xenophages, Venom makes a life or death decision. He turns to Eddie and says, "Eddie, it's do or die time. It's a bummer we didn't get to see the Statue of Liberty. Are you game?" Eddie looks at his wound, tears welling up in his eyes. He knows what Venom's getting at. Venom's about to go out in a blaze of glory to take down Xenophages. Back in the day, Eddie was a total scaredy cat. He'd run like the wind rather than stand and fight. His own life was his top priority. But after all those run-ins with Carnage and Riot, from the initial escape to facing these Xenophages now, their relationship's done a 180. They're not just a host and symbiote anymore, but tight-knit buddies who'd go to the ends of the earth for each other. Eddie's had a total makeover through these trials. He's not that wimpy guy anymore. If you asked him what he wants now, it'd be universal peace and to ride or die with Venom. So he strolls out of the helicopter without a hint of fear and morphs into Venom's badass form. He spreads his ginormous body and wraps the Xenophage up, turning into a colossal monstrosity. Even though his body's getting pulled every which way, their will's as solid as a rock. They march forward and then halt in front of the Major, giving him the nod to set off a mechanism. The Major gets the picture right away. Then Venom, lugging the Xenophage along, takes a few more steps and then hurls Eddie out of his body. Eddie can't believe his eyes. The supervillain Venom is about to get wiped out. The Major fires up the acid spray. Venom and the Xenophage are eaten away and destroyed by the deadly acid fog. At the 11th hour, Venom strains every muscle to extend a tentacle. Eddie instinctively sticks out his finger. But instead, Venom grabs a car door and gingerly covers Eddie to shield him from the killer acid spray. Then, Venom snaps an iron pipe in two to make the toxic mist spread like wildfire. The Major, spooked about any more surprises, detonates the toxic mist. In a flash, chunks of the Xenophage and Venom come raining down. Dr. Pian bolts like a deer, but trips and falls. Her colleague, quick as a whip, smashes the symbiote's glass tube and gets latched onto Pronto. She scoops up Dr. Pian, and just like that, the evil God Null's hopes of a jailbreak are dashed. After Eddie comes to, he blurts out Venom's name. The officer next to him breaks the news that Venom's vanished without a trace. Eddie feels like there's a gaping hole in his chest. His mind's flooded with memories of his time with Venom. This is the most heart-tugging saga of Venom and his host, Eddie. They started off scared and suspicious of each other, then gradually warmed up, from their daily squabbles to later fighting side by side. Eddie used to think he was just an average Joe, and that saving the world was for the likes of Iron Man. He just wanted a quiet life, and Venom was just a mysterious alien critter, even a dangerous one cooked up by the evil God Null. It once nearly led Spider-Man astray, and was a far cry from a hero in people's eyes. But these two underdogs, pushed by fate, have become world-saving heroes. During their long escape, Venom was itching to see the Statue of Liberty, because what they really hankered after wasn't power or wealth, but a simple, carefree life. But if anyone tries to mess with that, they'll fight tooth and nail. Finally, Eddie keeps his promise to Venom. He lands in New York and stares at the Statue of Liberty.
No te voy a olvidar, amigo.
Venom sacrifices himself to take out the Xenophage in the acid spray. But the story's not over. The evil god Null, seething in the shadows, vows to smash everything Venom's protected. Turns out, after Eddie and Venom duked it out with Carnage, they accidentally slipped into the main universe, where the Avengers hang out. There, they even made pals with Spider-Man on TV. Then they bounced back to their own world. But Eddie doesn't know he left a clone of Venom in the main universe. So, will the Venom that got zapped by the acid rise from the dead in the main universe? Chime in with your guesses in the comment section. This flick's called Venom 3, The Final Dance. If Venom does make a comeback, he might have amnesia about his past with Eddie. I mean, Cassidy only slurped up a tiny piece of Venom's clone and turned into the nightmarish Carnage. Maybe in other Marvel yarns, we'll get a tear-jerking reunion between Eddie and Venom. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Okay, that wraps up this episode. If you dug this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.